welcome to an on-location recording of Fishing Without Bait. As always, I'm joined by my good friend, co-host, and producer of this program, Mr. Mike. Mr. Mike, we're here in Delrey Beach, Florida. We decided to take a few days off from our regular life's journey and venture down to the sun for a bit to help people understand that happiness is not necessarily a destination. Happiness is not necessarily accomplished by wishing and hoping and waiting for something to happen. It's the result of action and effort.
Absolutely. And I gotta say, first off, I never imagined I'd be podcasting from the beach, like literally podcasting from the beach like we are now. It's right there. We're looking out on it. We'll have some shots in here. But this is tremendous.
Yes, and for those of you who will be catching some podcasts in the upcoming days, we recently just got this brand new tattoo. Just got the newest blooming Lotus Mandela with a recovery symbol in the center at our friend Jake Steele's tattoo establishment yesterday. And when we talk about happiness being the result of action and effort, I'm going to repeat this story. As Mike and I were approaching the airport, we were within about 10 minutes, and I started patting my pockets in my pants, and I realized that I had forgotten my wallet.
Yeah, and there's that point of panic, like, oh no, this isn't going to work. What are we going to do? But again, like you text some people, I text some possibilities, and finally we came down to a solution, which we talked about on the Jake podcast, of your thankfully your amazing building department took care of you and sent your wallet on a ride on Uber for us.
Yes, and fortunately, got onto the plane 5 minutes before the doors were closed for boarding. However, there was, I'll have to admit it, of course, I wouldn't be human unless there was a moment of desperation, a moment of panic and resentment and real sadness. However, we actually practice what we preach. We just don't tell you to, when life gives you lemons to make lemonade, we show you how to do it. We stop to step back and look at the situation rather than from it. And it's always great to have an extra person, an extra buddy to bounce ideas off of. And finally, we came up with one that worked. And as we often say, as Thomas Edison said, I've never failed. I found 1,000 things that didn't work. So, Mike, we found a number of things that didn't work until we found one that did.
No, absolutely. And I mean, and I was telling you, like, I screwed up too. I forgot to bring microphones to do our podcast. But thankfully, this has happened to me before. I mean, I've been on plenty of things over the last several years traveling, and equipment doesn't get in, or it damages while you're on the trip in the middle of nowhere, and you're like, okay, what can I get to make this work? Thankfully, I there's a guitar center, and it's like, well, I need new microphones anyways we have. Unfortunately, you might get a little bit of wind this week because I don't have pop filters for them that we usually have here on the podcast. But we got it in, and we're doing this, and here we are.
Yes, and as we say at times more bluntly than others, you're 100% responsible for your happiness. 100% responsible. Nobody else is your cruise director. We can't count on other people to provide our happiness. So I always say that you're in a very good relationship with someone, Mike, when you can look at them and say, I can live my life perfectly well and fine without you. However, it is so much better with you. And when someone can look at you and say the same thing, and you're perfectly comfortable with that type of synergy, you have a great relationship.
I get to practice at that every year when my wife leaves for 2 months to visit her family.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I can function for the most part on my own, but also I see the holes where she fits in very nicely.
Yes, and that's a synergistic type of effect where 1 + 1 = 3.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're done here, we often talk about crystallizing each moment, and that Mike and I can come to Delray Beach, and that Mike and I can go to New Orleans, we can go to the Grand Canyon, we can go to Paris, we can go to Pittsburgh, we can go to most anywhere. However, we can't bring those places home with us. So, what Mike and I will be bringing back from Delray Beach will be memories.
Absolutely, absolutely. That time we went down to Delray Beach, that time that we did this, the time you forgot the wallet, and there's always something like that. Uh, and that's what I'm loving with the traveling, and it doesn't have to be a lot. I'm earmarking for the rest of my year beaches around my area. It's nice for the next month or so back in Pittsburgh, going up the Erie, things like that, and get some downtime. Whatever that is, whatever is accessible to you, find that. Look for that place, that happy place for you.
Life consists of memories. How, unfortunately, however, as we begin to age longer and longer, unfortunately, a lot of people's memories are ones of regret, of things they wish they would have done or wish they would not have done, things they wish they would have said or things they wish they would not have said, Mike.
It's interesting because when I think about people, getting out of the regret zone, getting pushed over the edge. I think about what you were talking about with tattoos with Jake the other day about you get the first one and that gets you over the top of it, right? Like the most fearful thing when you're on a roller coaster is that anticipation of getting to the top of the hill before you go down. But once you get going, you're good. That wasn't so bad. That was fun. But it's that waiting and getting to it. And once you're pushed over the edge of doing that thing, getting a tattoo, doing that thing that you think is good for you, doing that thing that you've always wanted to, making better choices. Once you get into it, you're just going down the hill and hitting all the ups and downs, and you have that momentum.
Well, it's about getting out of your comfort zone, Mike. And
Absolutely.
you talked about that about flying. You talked
Hmm.
about that going into larger type of social situations. And as we discuss here, the comfort zone is a misnomer, I believe. It's not necessarily a place where you're very comfortable, you're chill, you detox, you relax. Quite often, your comfort zone is built up of bonds and barriers that surround you from fulfilling your authentic self. It's a place that could be drug or alcohol addiction, it could be anxiety, it could be despair, or it could be in a toxic relationship that you fear to change. Fear to change, Mike.
No, absolutely, and it's finding it's finding that thing that kind of helps fulfill you without those destructive patterns.
No growth takes place in the comfort zone. It takes outside, hence the sayings pushing the envelope,
Hmm.
thinking outside the box. So these type of things take courage, and all courage is the ability to deal with fear. So, and again, we use a lot of quotations, and George Adair always said that everything we want is on the other side of fear. And what I often tell people is expect discomfort. When we're going outside of our comfort zone, when we're going to a new situation, expect discomfort. It's not a terrible thing.
No, no, I mean, a little bit of discomfort lets you know that you're alive.
Yes, and people talk about anxiety. I'm too anxious. Well, Mike, we all need some anxiety. There's an optimum level of anxiety. And early on in our podcasting, we
Hmm.
talked about the optimum level of anxiety. However, without anxiety, Mike, we'd be sitting back in Pittsburgh.
No, we
We
would
wouldn't have
be.
gotten off the couch.
Nope, I'd be watching Netflix. I'd be doing nothing different, and well, it'd be like a lot of last year.
So when we assume that something won't happen or we assume that something will, we don't know. We want to get a mind of knowledge. And quite often, what we say is if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Yes.
So we found out some things that didn't work. So here we are, and we're going to be bringing home memories. So most people's memories are associated with negative events because most strong encoded bonded memories are formed by attachment to strong emotions, Mike. So quite often what I suggest to people, and how often have you said or you've heard someone said, I want to remember this moment. I want to crystallize it. I want to keep it in my mind forever. Well, you don't always have a camera. However, if you do have a phone, you always have a camera. But quite often, I'll ask people to attach a strong emotion to that moment, not by crying or pinching themselves, by laughing out loud as hard as they can.
Absolutely. Oh, you've done that to me a couple of times on this trip. I'll just be sitting there And then he'll just like we walked. I think it was the first time we walked out here to the beach. We walked to the beach like near where we're staying up there in Boynton Beach, isn't it? And you just like looked around and went, and that great Jim laugh that you have.
Yes, well, I have attempted to practice what I preach. In the 12-step world, we always say stick with the winners, and when we talk about sticking with the winners, Mike, we're talking about people who not only talk the talk, but they walk the walk also.
Absolutely.
That they live the life that they talk outside of the rooms. That we often have guests on our podcast. However, the guests that we have, Mike, we always make sure that they're just not fluff, that they're just not there to say words.
No, they have a real message. They have something that hopefully others can learn from.
Yes, and one of the most important things about person-centered therapy is to be genuine, is to be a genuine person. There is a theorem that we often talk about called parallel process, that the way that a person behaves in session is quite often the way that they behave in their real life. So what we want to do is have structure, consistency, and organization. That's what people need, consistency. When with your partner, she's consistent. You know what you're getting.
Yep.
She's consistent. She doesn't have a different personality for each hour of the day.
No, and I know how to navigate those waters, I guess you could say, right?
Yes.
So, and I don't want to put her in any uncomfortable situation unless I feel like it benefits her.
Correct. So when we look at situations, and I know we're crossing across some patterns of many type of topics here. However, it all's about relationships, and what we started, I was talking about happiness. And I always ask people to ask themselves a few questions when they have a partner. Does this person understand you? Does this person listen to you? Does this person respect you? Does this person treat you as an equal? Does this person give you the benefit of the doubt and the freedom to decide? And if they check all of those boxes, then you have spun the wheel and came up a winner. And that's another thing also that you can judge a friendship by also, Mike.
Yep.
What are the requirements it takes to be with you? And we get unsolicited offers and emails and calls about people wanting to be on this show. It's either to promote their product or, however, we just don't say come on board.
No, we kind of take a look at it and say, is this a fit for what we're doing?
Well, and also they have to believe in what product or message that they're trying to get across.
Mm-hmm.
They have to believe in it. They have to love it, not just for monetary reasons. As we've often said, there's no prize for being the richest person in a cemetery, and I don't think either you or I will have to worry about that.
No, I think we're good. We're good. We took the discount tickets down here.
However, that does not mean that we discount people who have money or make money, because it's not the love of money that's the root of all evil that's often misquoted. The whole sentence is the love of money is the root of all evil. So when you place the love of money over relationships, and if you're determining your happiness by keeping score against others, then that cannot have a happy ending, Mike.
No.
That's generally a life full of regret. So happiness is not something that you get at the store. Happiness is not something you order for Christmas. These things are temporary, as most things in life are temporary, Mike. So what we want to do is have things permanent. And the way that we have things permanent, Mike, is by having solid memories. And as it looks like some weather might be moving in.
Yeah, that wind's picking up during the course of the show. We're really stirring it up.
Directly, we'll return with another podcast tomorrow, which will be rebroadcast in the future. However, as always, at the end of every podcast, Mike, we offer a free prescription: fruits, nuts, and vegetables. Unplug your television and take up fishing. And for a truly mindful experience, we suggest that you fish without bait. Do a kindness for yourself and do a kindness for another. Forgive yourself and forgive another. Till all are free, namaste. Until next time, my friends, goodbye.
Please check out our website at fishingwithoutbait.com, where you can listen to the show, comment on our discussions, and find out where you can subscribe to our podcast. If you're interested in flying the colors of Fishing Without Bait, click the shop icon on our website. We have clothing, mugs, cell phone cases, and so much more. Show the world that you fish without bait. This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.